What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Stadium Drive, week number 3, and we are here at Maysville High School for action between the Maysville Panthers, 2-0 for the first time since 2016, against the Philo Electrics, who are 1-1 on the year. Another edition of this classic rivalry here in the Zanesville area. Will Ford, Aaron Sprague, live on Facebook, YouTube, and X this evening. Thanks for joining us. And Aaron, like I said, Maysville is 2-0 for the first time in nearly 10 years, and they're under new direction with Chase Bowman, who was at Morgan for a handful of years and did a great job rebuilding that program into a very competitive team in the MVL. Takes over for head coach Craig Clark, and Craig did a great job for a number of years, but Chase Bowman has these Panthers in a really good spot.
Yeah, Chase was on the staff in Coach Clark's early seasons when Maysville had a lot of success out the gate when Coach Clark got here. And then, went and cut his teeth as a head coach at Morgan and now back here. And it has the kids believing. I mean, I think it helps, not to tie everything back to basketball, but there's kids on this team that was on the state championship basketball team here at Maysville, and they know how to win. They know how to compete. You want winners on your team, even if you don't have necessarily great football players. Not saying that they're not, but you don't necessarily have to be a great football player if you know how to win. That competitiveness to know how to win, and they got some of those kids on this team, and that really helps. And again, just having Coach Bowman in here with his approach, obviously probably a little different than what Coach Clark had brought to the table. So just a shot in the arm here in Southtown, and coming off that Maysville State Championship, they're feeling good, pretty good down here. And anytime you start the season with 2 wins, now I think the John Glenn win was obviously huge, beating one of the big schools in the big school division, and then also just the fact that they've had a good program. Lakewood last week, I think, was kind of expected. They've been down for a number of years.
Yeah.
But in any event, they're at 2-0, and they are ready to go at it in this rivalry game. I'll tell you, anyone that's been around the MVL the last 10 years knows kind of all bets are off when these two teams play.
That's true.
I mean, it's kind of like Ohio State, Michigan. You got to play the game and see. I think on paper, most people would give the edge to Philo on paper, but the game is in Southtown tonight. They are 2-0. So, again, anything goes.
And Philo did struggle against the run last week against New Lexington. New Lex put up, I think, around 300 yards on the ground, and Paul Stenson had almost 200 of those. And so Maysville is a team that can run the ball pretty effectively. Granted, like you said, against Lakewood, who maybe has fallen on some hard times, but they really dominated in that game, ran the ball well, and that might be the soft spot in this Philo defense is running the football. So, like you said, all bets are off, and it should be a good one here tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this goes down. I'll be on the camera, running on the sideline, seeing what we can capture. I do think it's going to be a close game, I think. I think these teams are going to battle a little bit, and like you said, Philo coming off the loss in New Lexington after a really nice emotional win over Heath in week 1. So they're going to have to pick up the pieces. This is probably not the game they wanted next, coming off a loss,
sure.
I don't think.
Sure.
But in any event, it is here, and they gotta do battle.
You got to play your schedule. You got to win no matter what.
You do.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Maysville, having Lakewood on the schedule was good. Because Maysville has, to take your term from Lakewood, has fallen on some hard times a little bit.
Sure.
They haven't had the best football seasons the last few years. It is good to get wins under your belt, to soften up that schedule a little bit and be able to get some wins. I think that's really benefited West Muskingum over the last few years. Them getting in the MVL small school, getting some of those juggernauts off their schedule,
Sure.
like Tri-Valley and Sheridan, and being able to compile some wins, get some excitement, get some kids playing again, and get that momentum. So I think that's what we're seeing here with Maysville. And I think all the pressure's on Philo, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Maysville's feeling good. And imagine if Maysville can get to 3-0. I think that's going to change their entire season. The momentum they're going to have is going to be huge, especially beating your rival.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the last 10 matchups between these two teams, Philo leads 6-4, so it looks close, but really the last 4 years it's been dominated by Philo. 3 out of the last 4 wins. Maysville did win back in 2023, though, so it's always great when these teams do battle, and you'll be on the sidelines tonight. I will be too, capturing some social media content and putting out some score updates.
Yeah, definitely tune in. Will, I got to say, we are blessed with great weather. It has not been too hot.
Tell you what, the first couple weeks of the year have been pretty darn good.
It's really cool right now with a nice breeze. That's awesome. I also want to shout out all of our guys back at the office. They have been killing themselves. We've been putting out so many highlights the last 2 weeks. They are editing to the bone every day of the week to get all these videos out you're seeing, both football, volleyball, soccer. They're killing
I think that's
themselves.
the thing that people forget is we don't just cover football. We're
No,
out at soccer and volleyball during the week as
it's
well.
a
So
lot. It's a
some of these
lot.
guys are filming 3 or 4 games a week.
Yeah, we have a big road trip tonight. Our guy Josh made a 3-hour road trip to near Indianapolis from Columbus
Man.
to Carmel, Indiana, as Centerville's playing at Carmel.
Man.
So, yeah, we are all over the place tonight.
Yeah, unreal. Well, let's talk to head coach Chase Bowman, who has these Panthers at 2-0 for the first time in nearly 10 years, coming over from Oregon. He was an assistant on this staff with Craig Clark a number of years ago. Let's talk to him about the excitement here in Southtown as these Panthers are on a roll here to start this 2025 football season. You're watching Stadium Drive, week number 3 here at Maysville High School. Will and Aaron here with you live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Thanks so much for being here. And here is head coach Chase Bowman. And the Maysville Panthers joining us here on Stadium Drive for week number 3 and 2-0 on the season. And before I talk about this season with you, Coach, and this game in specific, first of all, I do appreciate your time. It's been a couple years since we talked, and I want to know why coming back to Maysville was the right move for you, because you were on the staff with Coach Clark a number of years ago, and then you did a great job rebuilding that Morgan program. And now you find your way back here with the Maysville Panthers. Why was joining Maysville and leading this program the right move for you?
Yeah, so I, 2 years ago, or excuse me, last year, I stepped down from the Morgan job and thinking that maybe the administrative route might be a way I wanted to go career-wise, which obviously would have meant, stepping back from coaching. And I kind of gave that a try, and it didn't take me very long to figure out that coaching is what I really love to do and really what I really should be doing. And then it just so happened that, Coach Clark decided to retire after last year, and this particular job came open. And like you said, I've got some familiarity with Maysville and Southtown, and I was here for 5 years with Coach Clark, and part of those playoff years, which was a lot of fun and really exciting, and that was a great learning experience for me. I know that. So yeah, when this particular job came open, I've got a lot of relationships here already. I know the kids, I know the community. That just it felt right to me.
Yeah. Now, with week 1, you took down John Glenn in overtime. You won 20-19, but you were down 13-0 in that game. And it could be very easy for a team, with a new coach and, figuring things out and a bunch of different stuff going on. It could be very easy for a team to just roll over at that point, down 13-0. But what was it about your guys? Like, how are they able to just find the guts within them to not only come back from 13 down, but also, win it in OT?
Yeah, that's something honestly we've been talking about a lot all summer, and through camp is, we kind of have we call it put the ball down mindset, which just means no matter what happens the previous play or the previous quarter or previous half or previous game or whatever, no matter what happens, you always have to be ready for the next play. So I think we've kind of stressed, and I think the kids have really bought into that message, and we've been trying to practice it in practice, and obviously at some point or another, you're going to need that mindset throughout the course of the year, and we needed it badly that particular night. And the kids, to the kids' credit, I mean, they did a remarkable job, just staying calm and staying confident, and trusting that good things were going to happen. And we felt like we felt like we weren't that far off. I know we were down 2 touchdowns there before half, but we moved the ball, got it into the red zone, and came close to scoring right before halftime. And then so I think that gave us a little bit of confidence coming out of the second half, and putting together a couple really good drives in the second half. And I think that just kind of boosted the kids' confidence, and I think they're feeling like they can play really well.
Yeah, and then you followed that up with a 41-7 win against Lakewood, and this team's 2-0. This program's 2-0 for the first time since 2016, and I know you have your sights set, obviously, like much higher than just winning the first 2 games of the year. But what does it mean for this program to be in a spot like this, 2-0 for the first time in almost 10 years?
I always felt like there's a huge difference in confidence when you start off the year fast. Just same thing in a particular game. If you start off a game fast, a lot of times you're able to get things rolling, and same thing when you look at a whole season. If you're able to start off 2-0, I think just the confidence level and belief of the kids. It's a lot easier for them to continue that belief moving forward. Whereas if you start off, and we saw that at Morgan, My last couple of years, we started off 2-0 or 3-0, and then last year when I was the assistant AD and still on staff, we started off with 2 close losses, and I think it was hard for us to keep that confidence up, even though you're not that far from 2-0 at that point. So, for the kids, I think it's just they truly believe that we can be a really good football team. And when you win that close game, and then again you come out and play pretty well the next week as well, there's a lot of belief right now in the locker room.
Now you match up with Philo in week 3, which this rivalry pretty well. And the last 10 games, Philo's won 6 of the last 10, and they've won 3 of the last 4. So recently it's been dominated by Philo, but you've played some close games over the years. These two programs have. But they're 1-1 on the year, and they played a great New Lex team in week 2. And they did struggle a little bit against the run, though, and it seems like through the first 2 games of the year, you guys have run the football, pretty well. Kohen Lewellen had a great game last week with 2 touchdowns, and what do you like about matching up against Philo's defense, who through the first maybe 2 weeks has maybe looked just like they've struggled against the run a little?
Yeah, I think for us, we want to be a team who can run the football well, and I think so far we've done a pretty good job. But I'm also extremely sure that Philo is going to be prepared for that as well, and they're going to be ready to stop the run. And I know New Lex did do a really good job of finding a way to get some numbers and get some angles on them, and of course they're a really well coached team, just like Philo is as well. So we know that they're going to be well prepared. We know that they're going to be a physical football team. They always are. We've got to be ready. We got to be ready for a dogfight. There's no doubt about it. And we've kind of preached all week long, like we've got to make sure we're well prepared, us as coaches and us as and the kids as well, Monday through Thursday, and then we've got to go out and execute on Friday. If we do that, I like where we're at. But they're the type of team, if you're not ready to go mentally and physically, they'll make you pay for it. So I think we've had a pretty good week of practice, and hopefully we come out and are ready to play well on Friday night as well. We know this community is awesome, and they're going to support you no matter what. But especially when you're doing well, and we've seen that obviously firsthand with our basketball program. They've had a lot of success, and you see the crowd showing up there. So we have no doubt that our community is going to back us, and they're going to be there, and they're going to be loud. And it's really exciting when you get to go out there and perform in front of your community. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Coach, I appreciate your time, man, and it's great to get to talk to you again. And you've got Maysville in a great spot, 2-0 for the first time in nearly 10 years, and it's exciting to see you back in the head coaching ranks. And I'm excited for the game against Philo on Friday, man. And thanks as always for your time, and good luck.
All right, thanks, Will. I appreciate it.
Big thanks to Chase Bowman with the Maysville Panthers taking on these Philo Electrics tonight, and great to see him back in the head coaching ranks after taking a year off, still being on the staff at Morgan, but taking an administrative role, and figured out that coaching head coaching was what his calling was and what he wanted to do. So it's great to see him leading Southtown, and again 2-0 for the first time since 2016. Now against this Philo team, if you look at the last 10 games, it has been a little one-sided the last couple of years. So let's bring up the last 10 here. 3 of the last 4 years, you can see there, 2021 through 2024. Philo's won 3 of them. Maysville's last win was in 2023, 24-7. But 6 wins to 4, Philo over Maysville the last 10 years. But of course, the first year under head coach Chase Bowman, Philo 1-1, Maysville 2-0, and it's going to be really exciting to see this game. And I think it's going to be whoever runs the football better is going to win this game. Philo, Slade Sprankle, 2 great games. Through the first 2 weeks, 80 yards rushing at least in the first 2 games. And he had 2 touchdowns last week against New Lex, and then Kohen Lewellen, 2 rushing touchdowns, 73 yards on the ground. And Maysville scored 41 points in the first half against Lakewood, and they ended up winning 41-7 and to get to 2-0. So it's going to be really interesting tonight. You take a look at Kohen Lewellen as well. Let's let's take a look at those stats, because he also he only carried the ball 8 times in that game against Lakewood, as you can see here. Rushed for 9 yards a carry, and of course the 41 points in the first half, like I mentioned, and just a great game from Kohen Lewellen. And these Maysville Panthers looking to defend home turf here tonight. And so now let's hop into our discussion with head coach Dirk Lincecum of the Philo Electrics. We talked about Slade Sprankle in the running game. He's really improved from a year ago. But what do they do to kind of shore up their run defense? Because against New Lex, they gave up around 300 yards on the ground, 186 yards from Paul Stenson, along with the 4 rushing touchdowns. One big one there at the end that kind of inflated the stats as the game was just about out of reach at that point. But got to clean things up on the defensive side of the ball, tackling in open space and stopping the run. And so Coach Lincecum talks about that Week 2 game against New Lex and how to prepare for this rivalry and new head coach Chase Bowman. So here is Coach Lincecum, Stadium Drive, week number 3, live on Facebook, X, and YouTube, and we really appreciate you being here and joining us. Is joining us again, Philo Electrics, week number 3, taking on the Maysville Panthers in a local MVL rivalry, and Philo's 1-1 on the year. And Coach, appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you, man. And last week against New Lex, at home opener, it was close to the first half. You guys really had a lot of the momentum, forced 2 turnovers defensively. You had the lead at one point. I think it was 14-12 going into halftime, and then the game ended up kind of getting away, and you lost 37-20. Was there anything in particular that you felt got away from you guys? Because I felt like that was a game that maybe you thought, I don't know what your thoughts are, but maybe you could have had that one if things had maybe went the other way.
Yeah, it was 30-20 when they punched the last one in. So not that you're ever happy with a loss. 30-20 would have been better than 37-20.
Sure, of course.
If that game ends 30-20, but no, we a lot of lead changes in that game. It was 14-12. We were down at halftime, as you said, and then we stalled out on a drive in the third quarter, and they went down and scored, and that opened it up a little bit, and then I believe we threw a tipped ball interception that they scored on, so they started to pull away a little bit. It was 30-12. Then we punched one in, made it 30-20. And then we had them at 3rd and 5. And we still had 2 timeouts. We had used 1 timeout to kill the clock. So this was with probably, I'm going to guess about 4 minutes left. So we wanted to use out of their timeout on 3rd down. It was 3rd and 5, and we couldn't get them stopped. They threw a spot pass. It was 3rd and 5. They got about 8. So that play was a pivotal play, not being able to get them off the field and use that timeout to force a punt there. That was around the plus 40-yard line. And then they picked up that first down. I think they scored on either the next play or the next 2 plays to make it 37-20. But, I'm proud of my guys. They played hard. We didn't execute on some things, felt like we had a pretty good game plan going in. We kind of knew what they were going to do with inside and outside zone and spot pass and some different route concepts that we were able to take away. I was pretty pleased with our pass defense, but that's a 2-sided coin, because when your pass defense plays well and you lose by 17, that means your run defense didn't play very well, unless you had a boatload of turnovers, which we did not. So we didn't tackle really well. Our run defense was a little loose, and they took advantage of it. And, I give New Lex credit, give Coach Board and his staff and their kids credit. They're tough. They're a tough team. I think their quarterback, the Ratliff kid, he's tough, physically tough kid. And then number 75, not sure what his name is, he gave us some problems. And then their tailback, the Stenson kid, he 6'1", 205, I think, are his roster numbers. We had a hard time with him. He runs hard and keeps his feet moving. So, credit to them. Still proud of our guys for the way that they fought and got that late score in the second half. And, that was a tough early season matchup for us. So hopefully we can rebound this week against Maysville.
Slade Sprankle had another great game, 88 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, did a lot of that work in the first half, but you guys have been running the ball pretty well here through these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Slade. He's one of those guys that had a really good offseason. He runs really hard. There's not an inch of fat on him anywhere. And he always, what I love about Slade is he always credits his offensive line with all of his success. He never takes any credit for himself. He'll give Jack praise for opening up the running game or his offensive line for doing their work up front. So really love that about Slade, and I'm really proud to see him get off to such a good start these first couple weeks. He's really grown a lot as a player, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah. Now you are on the road at Maysville this week, and Maysville's 2-0 for the first time. I had to look this up, the first time since 2016. And Chase Bowman, who came over from Morgan, of course, he was on the Maysville staff a number of years ago, but came over from Morgan, takes over for Craig Clark. And, Craig was a good coach for a long time. And now Maysville, 2-0. I mean, what do you like about what Coach Bowman has done with this Maysville program? They win it in overtime against John Glenn in week 1, and then dominate Lakewood in week 2, and now they've got you guys.
Yeah, that game week 1 against John Glenn, I don't know when the last time Maysville beat John Glenn. It may have been pretty recent, but it seems like that's been a little bit one-sided lately. So, just to see them pull that win out in overtime the way that they did, it showed that they'll fight. They could have rolled over in that game, and they didn't. They stuck with it, and that I think they were down 2 touchdowns, maybe 13-0 to start that game.
Yeah, you're correct. Yep.
So that's credit to their players and coaches for sticking to it and, not folding up the tents before the game's over. So that was a big win for them. Lakewood last week, obviously, totally different opponent. Lakewood has struggled a little bit lately, but, that's also kind of a trap game for Maysville to have a letdown and, take things for granted. And they really didn't. I think that game was 41-7.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at their guys on film, they obviously have good players. I think what Chase brings is some enthusiasm, and Coach Clark had enthusiasm too. If you
yeah.
Coach Clark, there was never a shortage of enthusiasm. Coached against Craig many years, and I thought he did a great job at Maysville. But just having a new face in there sometimes makes a big difference. When I first came to Philo, it was the new guy in town, and let's get excited. We don't know what's going to happen. There's some excitement and maybe some fear and some some hope all wrapped up into that. So Chase has got that going for him right now, and they're off to 2-0. So nothing breeds winning like winning. So glad to see Chase. He's a good guy. Glad to see him get off to a 2-0 start.
Yeah, and in this rivalry, the last 10 games between you guys have won 6 out of the last 10, but 3 out of the last 4. So recently you've dominated this series, but Maysville's a team that runs the ball pretty well too. Kohen Lewellen had 73 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, and Maysville scored all 41 of their points in the first half. I mean, they did their work early and got a huge win, but they're a team that runs the ball pretty well. And as you mentioned, against New Lex, you were maybe a little bit softer against the run. What do you do to clean that up and stop guys from Kohen and other guys on that Maysville offense from being able to run around and make plays?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we'll have a couple different looks this week to mix some things up front and then in our secondary. But the number one thing we have to do is tackle better. We didn't tackle very well last Friday. And, again, some of that is a credit to the opponent, but Maysville's got guys that are hard to tackle too. So that problem will be reoccurring until we get it fixed from within. So we need to do a better job of tackling, mix up our looks defensively, maybe, change out personnel groupings, maybe take a defensive back off the field, bring in another defensive lineman or linebacker, and just, not get too settled into one look and, be a little bit more diverse defensively. But what it comes down to is getting off of blocks and making tackles. So I've challenged our guys this week every day to get that accomplished and do a better job of executing that skill, because if you can't tackle, it really doesn't matter how you line up or what the other team's doing if you can't tackle them. So we need to do a better job with that.
And what's the key to getting Jack back on track? Just a little inaccurate last week, and you mentioned some tip balls and things that, those are some unlucky plays sometimes, but he wasn't really able to get the ball to Aiden Mahon all that often. That connection, New Lex did a good job defending that, but what do you do to kind of open that connection back up and just get Jack just more on target and more accurate this week?
Well, not being the quarterback's coach, I would have to defer that to my quarterback's coach. But
Fair enough.
But I think New Lex did a good job of mixing up their looks and some blitzes, and some of their pressures interfered with some of our timing. But Jack did have one deep ball to Mahon. Mahon made a spectacular catch on the sidelines. I think targeting him a little bit more, and just isolating him and getting him those jump ball opportunities, and just taking advantage of his speed against the guy that's trying to cover him. And I also think that when you are able to have an effective run game, it opens up some of those opportunities too. So with some play actions and some bootlegs and waggles and things like that. So they're teenagers, and trying to get them back on track can be as simple as just one small comment at practice, or you can spend hours looking at film to try to show them where the holes are or where the opportunities are. But what it comes down to is, just they have to be focused on game night and be ready for some things that we couldn't prepare for, and being able to adapt. Urban Meyer says his number one trait of quarterbacks is adaptability, so that when things break down and we're not sure what to do or where to go with it, we have an adaptability plan for, when we don't get the look that we're expecting, or something's just off, or there's a bad snap, or, we have a breakdown in protection. So Jack, he needs to just be ready for those situations and do the best that he can. And I try really hard not to overcoach him. I let him come to me with questions. I don't try to force feed answers and commands into him. When he wants to know something, he knows that I'm willing to talk through it with him. But most of the time I will send him to his position coach and say, you need to get that answer there. And then if that answer is still lingering, then it can come to me, and, we'll try to get some clarity on it. But, I think last week was a learning experience for all of us. We played a good football team. I think New Lex is they're going to have a good season. They're pretty talented, and I certainly look for them to be possibly a 10-0 football team, maybe a 9-1, 8-2 football team. But credit to them, and it's not as though we handed them the game. They were more physical than we are. They outplayed us. So credit to them, and we'll get back on track tomorrow night. I like the game plan this week. I like the way the kids have shown back up. It's almost like when you lose, practice is better, because kids come out with a little more sense of urgency, a little bit more chip on their shoulder, a little more edgy. Not that I ever want to lose so that we have good practices.
Right.
I want to clarify that. But
sure,
coming off of a loss, you do kind of expect to see the guys a little more dialed in and say, okay, there's a lot of lessons wrapped up in that loss. We can either choose to turn our back and ignore that, or we can take it and learn from it. And I think that's life for these guys, and I think these lessons that they learn, and not necessarily getting the outcome you want, how can you serve you moving forward in your life, so that the next time the situation comes around, you're better prepared, better equipped to deal with it and get the outcome that you want.
Well, we've got Philo Maysville tomorrow night for week 3. Best of luck to you, Coach, and hopefully you get back in the win column. And I always appreciate you giving us some time 2 weeks in a row here with Stadium Drive. I appreciate it, man. It's always a lot of fun talking to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. See you Friday.
And Slade Sprankle knifed through the New Lex defense last week. 20 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, and was very dominant, especially in the first half when that game was close. And then New Lex able to pull away in the second half. But they'll need another big game from Slade on the ground against these Maysville Panthers here tonight in order to get back in the win column. And you heard Coach Lincecum talk about it as well. just getting his son Jack, senior quarterback, back on track and really isolating Aiden Mahon out wide. Got tons of speed. He's tall, he's lanky, long arms, and just really fast and can high point the football as well. So if you get him in one-on-one situations down the field, they would love to take advantage of that as well and be balanced, running and pounding the rock with Slade, but throwing it up to Aiden Mahon as well, and hopefully getting Philo back in the win column. But I do think one of the more important aspects of this game is going to be special teams. And if you remember back in week 1 for Philo, when they went up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, Heath had a kickoff return for a touchdown that made that game a little dicey late before Philo was able to run out the clock, and they got out of there on the road with a win. But Maysville last week, they had a kickoff return for a touchdown as well. Keaton Bryan had 2 total touchdowns last week. He had a receiving touchdown of 30 yards, but he had an 82-yard kick return for a touchdown as well. So if there's a spot if there are spots for Maysville to take advantage of tonight, it's maybe in the return game with some poor kick coverage and maybe set Maysville up with some good field position, but also running the football as well with Kohen Lewellen because Maysville has been running the ball well all season, and Philo struggled last week against the run. So it's going to be interesting, this matchup here tonight. But before we get out of here, let's take a look at our other games going on. And we'll start with East and Northeastern Ohio here, our Storied Rivals schedule this week. So Ridgewood at home against Lutheran East. Union Local on the road at Indian Creek. They had lost in a close game last week. West Muskingum on the road at John Glenn. Of course, this game here tonight, Maysville, Philo. Meadowbrook, Cambridge, the rivalry. I'm very familiar with it, being a Meadowbrook grad. And Meadowbrook will look to get their first win, as well as Cambridge. So something's got to give there tonight. New Lex, 2-0 on the road at Morgan. On the right side of your screen, Sheridan at Licking Heights. Tri-Valley hosting Clinton Massey. Garaway hosting Norwayne. Talmadge at home taking on Greene. Worcester at New Philly. And the Zanesville Blue Devils hosting Newark. And that's another classic rivalry here in the Zanesville area. Another edition of that rivalry. So that's the schedule in East and Northeastern Ohio. Let's take a look at Central and Western Ohio to close out the show tonight. You heard Aaron talk about it at the beginning of the show. One of our guys, Josh, 3-hour trip to Carmel, Indiana, where we're going to be filming the Centerville Elks Final Four team last year in Division I, and Centerville on the road, a couple hours away. Dublin Kaufman at Dublin Jerome. Dublin Scioto hosting Thomas Worthington. Olentangy Liberty, the defending state champs, at Gahanna. Grandview Heights at Northridge. The Granville Blue Aces, big win last week against Tri-Valley at Johnstown Monroe. Hamilton Township on the road against Independence. Hilliard-Davidson, the Wildcats, this is on the right side of your screen now, at Miamisburg. Jonathan Alder hosting Bloom Carroll. New Albany, the Eagles hosting the Olentangy Berlin Bears. This one I'm very intrigued by tonight. Olentangy at Olentangy Orange. 2 offenses that have performed very well this season through 2 games, and I'm really excited for that. Upper Arlington hosting Reynoldsburg. Marysville at Lancaster, and the final game on our schedule, Westerville Central at home against Bell Fountain. So there is the schedule for both East and Northeast Ohio, Central and Western Ohio, with Storied Rivals coverage for Week 3. Thanks so much for joining us here for Stadium Drive, Week number 3. We're here at the MAC here in Maysville, Southtown. The Maysville Panthers 2-0 for the first time since 2016 under new head coach Chase Bowman. The Philo Electrics 1-1. And they have dominated this rivalry recently, 3 wins out of the last 4 years and 6 out of the last 10. What happens tonight? Drop your predictions down in the comments. Who you think wins this game, what the score is, and who's the MVP of the game. And stay tuned throughout the night on social media for score updates, highlights from this game and other games that we're covering tonight. We really appreciate you joining us And at the end of the night, we'll have our Stadium Drive player of the game for the winning team tonight. So thanks so much for hopping on, everyone. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show every week. And we love showing some love to the high school football teams in this area, especially these teams that we've been covering for so long in the Muskingum Valley League, but also giving some love to our Licking County teams as well as teams in the Columbus area as well. So we really appreciate all of the schools that work with us and give us the opportunity to tell their stories each and every year. And tonight, another edition of the Maysville Philo local MVL rivalry. We'll see you soon. It's for Stadium Drive Week 4. And thanks so much for tuning in tonight. And once again, stay tuned for score updates from this game. And want to give a quick shout out to our friends at maxeffortmuscle.com, the best tasting protein in the game, supplements, pre-workout, aminos, and anything that you could ever want or need for your health and fitness. They've got it. So go check out Corey G and the guys, maxeffortmuscle.com. Thanks so much to them. And see you later, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And this has been Stadium Drive, week number 3 with Storied Rivals.